Hello. Several episodes back, I told you that we would revisit the idea of what the inspection is, because a lot of people want to move to France knowing that they can find an economical house to buy, cheap houses, and they can renovate it. If they have the ability to do it, that saves a lot of time and energy, or you'll need to find contractors. But it used to be an optional extra to have this inspection report. Now it's required, and it's wonderful because you will know everything you're going to face ahead of time. And here's the main things that it entails is it will cover the roof. They'll tell you what the condition of the roof is. They'll tell you the structural integrity of the house. They'll tell you how strong or weak the walls are. And then they'll go through all the different services. And then there's other things that they'll touch on, like pests and asbestos. The first thing that you need to know is the energy rating. It goes from A to G. Ours was a G because this house had zero, and I do mean zero, insulation. There was no insulation in the walls. There was no insulation in the attic. It was just an icy, cold, moist, wet, unwelcoming house. But we bought it because we could see the potential in it. You need to know what your energy rating is because the French government continues to change the rules, and every few years they're going to require it to be closer to an A. It doesn't have to be an A, but I mean closer to an A. So if you buy a house that's existing and somebody's selling it, and it is, kind of sort of insulated, and it says C, that's a good option. You don't have to start from scratch. We started from scratch, but because Mark was tearing down all of the walls throughout the whole house, it was fine. He was going to build out the walls and then insulate everything on the exterior and then in between. And we'll show you that in some of the upcoming episodes where we show the renovation stages. Okay, electrical. Our house had electrical wiring in it that some of it was from the 1920s and 30s that had never been ripped out. It had just been left. And it was that old-fashioned braided cord that was like cotton braided cord. And it was around all the door frames upstairs leading into the bedrooms. And I said to Mark, why did they take that out? And he said, I don't know. They just didn't bother. They just put the other wiring on top. When the energy company came out to connect us, because the house had not had electricity for quite a while, apparently, he said, your breakers and everything, this is from the 1950s. So yes, the entire house had to be rewired. We have new electrical panels. We have a thing called a Linky box. It's bright green. It's like a lime green box, and they can read the energy from the street or from a remote location, and it's very accurate. It keeps you on track with how much energy you're using all the time. So that's fine. Everything's new. Everything's up to date. All right. The energy report or the inspection report will also cover your plumbing. Funny story. They went out, they looked at the water heater, and they said, oh, it looks fine, but it wasn't on. It hadn't been turned on for so many years that it might have looked fine, but apparently it had sediment or something in it, and we had not been in this house for more than, I don't even think, a month, and we started getting this sputter out of all the different faucets, and that was the water heater dying. So literally within a few months after we moved in here, Mark had to go get a new water heater and replace it. So yes, the inspection might have said it looked fine, but it wasn't. They are also going to test for pests, and it's not just the pests that you may know. We've got this kind of mold here that grows. It looks like forest mushrooms, and it grows on the interior and the exterior, and it can eat a house. It's the weirdest thing you've ever seen. They cover most of the wood-boring insects. They'll tell you, they'll take little samples of the wood, and they'll tell you if you have any of that. We had what they called historic activity. So nothing was live, nothing was active. But Mark took the opportunity when he was tearing down every wall and every ceiling. He put on full protective gear, including, masks and face shields and all of that stuff, gloves. And he drenched the house in that stuff. So thank God I was over at the rental house. I wasn't anywhere near that because it's horrible to breathe in and it's really apparently quite toxic. Your inspection report will give you that. You need to know these things so that you can know ahead of time if you've got dry rot or woodworm or this mushroomy thing that grows here in this country. And if you do, you'll need to get that attended to before you start renovating a house and just covering it up with plaster. You don't want to put new plaster walls on top of something that's not sound, and you don't want to have overhead beams that are going to fall through at some point because the insects have eaten through them. Other pests. Mice. There's a funny thing about mice and rats and, what do they call them? Loirs. They're little things that try and get into your walls, get into your attic. This is around the world, all right? This is not anything new. But we did have some mice, and we got rid of them without putting down bait that could kill animals or birds like owls. We've got beautiful owls and things here. So what we did was we bought some, I'll at the end I'll go get one and show it to you. We bought these plug-in pest control things, and they emit a signal, and the mice won't go anywhere near it. So if you start hearing mice running around in the wall or in the ceiling, you can just plug this thing in. It sends out this signal. They don't want to come anywhere near it. They find it very disturbing, so that's good. It keeps your house safe and you're not putting anything toxic into the environment. Okay, plumbing, asbestos. They'll tell you if you have asbestos anywhere in your house, and you don't know. You think, oh, well, the walls are all here, everything must be fine. No, that's not necessarily true. You could buy a house that has asbestos-wrapped pipes. You could buy a house that has asbestos in some of the roof. You need to know all of those things, because if you ever start renovating and doing it yourself, you can expose yourself to asbestos. That's a cancer possibility. So just know that ahead of time and keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, we talked about the energy rating. All right. Our energy rating, I'm going backwards a little bit. Our energy rating was a G for the following reasons. Not only did we not have insulation, the walls here were cob and lime. There's stone. Most of the house is made out of stone, except for what I call the back bunker, the concrete bunker. And you've seen the renovation of that in a previous episode, where it was just literally the ugliest big concrete room, and Mark turned it into his workshop. There was nothing to protect you. And the cob is a mixture of mud and straw. Not only was the cob lining the walls, on the walls that weren't done with lime plaster, the cob was in the ceiling. So that was what was on the ceiling of all these areas. When we show you some further episodes, you'll see that coming down, and it's just a pile of mud on the ground. And the beams were these really weird, twisty beams up the wall. It looked like, if you go to England, a lot of times you'll see these medieval looking, or after medieval, houses that are half timbered. That's what parts of this neighborhood looked like back in the 1600s and the 1700s. This house was one of those. So, anyway, proceeding on. Let's see, pests, plumbing, energy rating, stability. Okay. This is where we got into some unexpected little things. In our report, it said that this had been an area that had previously had what we called in Australia sticky mud. Mark calls it hydrophobic soil, where if there's too much moisture, everything liquefies and houses can subside, they can slump. And from the outside, you can look at our house and you would never think there's any kind of things like that. Also, we're on a known earthquake fault line. It's not really active very much. We get little trembles every once in a while. I'll be sitting watching television, or I can hear something that's like somebody knocking on the door, and you go, and you realize what it is. It's a small earthquake. And we do get them in Brittany. We get earthquakes. But ours is not anything big. Now, we got the report, and it told us that we had been in an area that had historic activity. So nothing has moved. This is why our walls were, it's 1800s and 1700s and whatever else. Nothing is straight in an old house, There's not a single straight floor or wall in an old house, but the house was stable. You could walk across the floors, you could look at the walls. Nothing looked like it was falling down. So this was a surprise. We got upstairs and Mark started to take apart the bedroom because we will show you a slideshow in an episode after this. And not only had they covered over the ceiling with some sort of that grooved timber board, they had covered over the fact that the whole side of the house upstairs had slumped at some point several hundred years ago. And it was a good dip. So when we looked at the house, I looked at the floors in the master bedroom and I said, that's not wood, is it? That's linoleum that's patterned to look like wood. And he goes, no, that's not wood. And he peeled up one little section. He goes, no, there's timber floors underneath. So we knew we had chestnut floors. Good. All right. He starts ripping apart the walls, taking everything down, took that horrible ceiling down so that he could put in insulation and plaster. He pulled up that flooring and he was like, oh my God. So what was underneath that linoleum was some sort of chipboard, OSB, whatever you want to call it in whatever country you're in, and the linoleum had been laid on top of it. But there was like a platform built underneath, almost like a decking platform, and it was built to accommodate all the different levels. It was the weirdest thing you've ever seen. It wasn't all put together and nailed properly or any, it was just flimsy. It was this really weird flimsy floor, which explained why you would walk across that floor and it was springy. You could feel the movement. It was not at all stable. And he had to take every bit of that out, go all the way back down to the point where, and again, you'll see this in the slideshow, he took it down to where you could see what was the top of this ceiling, because the master bedroom is directly above where I'm sitting. And he had to do the same thing, though. He had to build a platform, but it was sturdy, big timbers. Then he relayed the chestnut floors, which he gently and meticulously pried up. And some of them started to split as they were prying up. So what he did was, he took them out in the workshop in the back, his studio, and he clamped them back together and put them all back together. So it ended up being fine, and we ended up with a very nice floor up there. But we wouldn't have known that there had even been historic subsidence or earthquake activity or anything else. Oh, the sticky mud, the hydrophobic soil. You need to know all of those things. A good inspection report will tell you the condition of the outside of the walls. We could walk around the house and we could see our exterior was absolutely fine. Even the stone part in the very back of the house where you've seen it on the roof terrace, it was beautiful. It was not falling down. There are houses all over France that are half falling down. We're very lucky. Ours was not. We didn't have those kind of issues. But you need to know that because, number one, it's a negotiating strategy for you. If you go, ooh, this is going to cost this, this, and this to renovate. And the owners, if they've had it on the market for a long time, and most of these houses that are old, that are what they call bargain houses, they have been on the market for a long time. You've got some negotiation ability there. Don't be mean and nasty about it, but just say, I'm sorry, monsieur, madame, I can't buy this like this. It's going to take a lot of work. Don't be surprised if you get a shrug. Anyway, it's worth asking. So, let's see. Is there anything else? The roof. Make sure the roof looks all right. I mean, seriously, make sure the person, they went out through our skylights to check that our roof was intact. So that's good. I think that's about it, but you do need to have a good inspection. Make sure you understand it all. They're going to give you the inspection in French. You can do a couple of things. You can request that the notaire gives it to you in a PDF document, which you can then turn into an English document. You just run it through something like Google Translate, and when you open up a Google Translate window, you see where you can put in a normal conversation and it translates it over to English. There's also an option to put in a document. You drag and drop that up there from wherever you have it in your computer. Make sure they send you a copy so that you've got a copy for your permanent records, not just in the post. That's inconvenient. And then you can translate it and take your time reading it so you know everything. Because as soon as you sign and you give them the 10% deposit, you're on the process. You're on the way, all right? So make sure you understand everything. In a lot of cases, we were fortunate because our real estate agent, Nicholas, was absolutely charming, and he spoke fluent French, and of course he was British. And so, we didn't need to pay for the services of a translator. If you think you can't manage this, most of the time the notaires now will ask you to bring a translator, or they will hire a translator for you. That's a little extra fee. I don't know how much. I've seen a few things online that suggest it's around 200 or 300 euros. You need to know those things. It's better to know every single thing before you buy a house. So let me quickly look at my notes and make sure I've covered everything. All right, subsidence requires leveling. Roof, walls, structural integrity, the services, blah, 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 electrical. Oh, we had not. I mentioned this when I was talking about buying old houses. Make sure you know that you have the ability to get the internet. That's seriously an important thing. This house had never had the internet. It had barely had a phone. It had an old phone line that was from the 1950s. So when fiber was finally offered in the village, we were like, yes, sign up for it. It took the longest time. It was delayed repeatedly. But when he came out, he drilled a huge hole through the side of the wall. And then we've got wonderful Wi-Fi now. So that's something to look for. If you think you want the real country dream, you might want to look at something like Skylink or one of the satellite packages, because satellite internet is apparently quite reliable, and a lot of people we know personally have that instead because they don't choose to live in a village. So I think that's about all. Yep, that's about all. All right. Thank you. We'll be back soon. And when we come back, we will have the slideshow of the renovations upstairs so that you can see. I'm not going to show you the finished product. We'll show you that at the very end of all these little videos, and we'll do a tour of the house so that you can see what it looks like now. But also, for anybody who's interested in the ghost story, I'm going to try and get it done either tonight or tomorrow so that you have at least one for Christmas. All right. Thank you. Come back and see us soon. Please do engage. Ask questions. That shows that you're interested in the channel. I'm going to go ahead and mention something which some people say, oh, you should never mention that. We have the demographic that we were looking for. Our demographic was over 40s, over 50s, over 60s. There's enough information now because we started this channel on the 13th of November. We've now been online for over 30 days, and they can analyze who is engaging, who's looking, who's thumbs upping, whatever. 70-something% of the people who watch the videos don't, sign up, don't follow. If you don't follow, we can't grow the channel. And if we can't grow the channel and it can't get spread out to other people around the world, that's going to be a problem. I don't know how long we'll want to keep doing that. So please think about it. If you're interested in these things, if you're interested in the topic, whether you want to move to France, whether you just want to see Mark riding bicycles around Brittany, whether you want to see him climbing up and down stone walls and removing ivy, whether you want to hear about how to buy houses and what to do and have renovation stories, or whether you're here for ghost stories, or whether you're here for daily life things. All of those are interesting topics. We don't have one specific niche. They advise you to niche down. Oh, you should just keep one topic. No, that's not the two of us. We're artists, we're creative people, we have lots of interests. We're going to expose you to a lot of that. So if you're interested, please do consider signing up. Follow us. Give us thumbs up, for heaven's sakes, it all counts. Thank you very much. Not begging, I'm just keeping you informed of, the life and structure of YouTube and how these things go. All right. See you soon. Bye. Hello, I'm back again. There's some supplemental information that I forgot to give to you. I said I would show you what the little thing looks like. This is it. You can buy them in packs of like 3, 5, 10, whatever you need. We got ours from Amazon. They came immediately. That's a European plug on this one. You can get them probably wherever you are, and they're absolutely wonderful because you're not harming wildlife. I'm not saying you want to love the mice, but if you poison them and then they go out and wander around in the garden and either something like a beautiful hawk or an owl picks it up or a neighborhood cat and it has poison in it, you have the chance of doing harm to wildlife. So let's just not do that. This is so much easier. You plug it in and this little light here goes blue. It's almost like a night light. It's not bright enough for a night light, but it does, give you some illumination so you know where they are. And we have one down here on this floor. I think there's one back in the back in Mark's studio. There's one on the landing upstairs between the bedrooms on the next level up. And then there's one upstairs on the level where the art studio that you haven't seen yet. That's something to look forward to. We've got a whole video about that. And because it's a completed room too, we will do a little tour of that. All right, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is on the inspection report that you'll get from the notaire, they tell you what's in the neighborhood that could impact on your quality of life. And that's really quite important. Some people don't want to be anywhere where they're going to smell farming activities. And Brittany is well known for the fact that we have poultry and pork farms. So you can be someplace that all of a sudden you didn't know you bought a house. And right down the road, there's a pig farm. And the pig farms are really stinky and horrible. They're completely dreadful. You might not notice it, but then all of a sudden the wind will shift and it will come washing over you while you're trying to hang out your laundry in the backyard. That happened to us at one rental house. Not a nice thing. All right, the other thing they'll let you know is if there are any historic places where, for instance, petrol or diesel underground fuel was stored. They'll give you all that information and tell you how far it is from your house. Then the next one that's important to know is if there are going to be like industrial parks that could make noise all times of the day and the night. All over Brittany, there are food packaging plants that make biscuits, that make cakes, that package dairy products, that make yogurts and cheeses and whatever. If you live close to one of those and you didn't know that they are open all night long and making noise, that's important for you to know. You need to have all of the information you can to make a really good decision, to make an informed decision before you write a contract and pay your money. Because if you think you can turn right around and just, splash some paint around and put some wallpaper up and, put a new deck on the back or whatever, and then turn around and resell it. No, houses do not resell quickly in France. This is not a historic thing that they do here. They don't flip houses like they do in Australia and in England and in America. So just know that this is an investment for your future. That's why you need to know all of these things. And this inspection report is a very, very good first step to knowing. So, I think that'll do it. We might, if we're lucky, have a little wee Christmas video about things going on here in our house. So, anyway, bye for now. Do come back soon.